Hello and welcome to the Eclipse Evolution podcast. I'm your host, Savannah Rose. Welcome to 2025, my first episode of the new year. Oh my goodness, what a blessing, what a gift to start this new year with you all. I created this podcast back in 2023 when my life looked extremely different. Oh my gosh, could not be more of a 180. Even just last year in 2024, January, I was, oh gosh, getting ready for my trip to Hawaii, which started this huge stint of travel and healing and connection. And I was also dealing with a flooded house and, oh gosh, that was crazy. And having to find a new place to live. It was just wild how much can change in the span of a year and 2 years, and experiencing this quantum leap, so to speak, of living a life where daily I feel peaceful and happy and just like I'm living in my authentic expression. I'm living in a true manifestation of so many of my deepest heart's desires. What a I cannot imagine a more beautiful way to start this year and to share that with you all. So thank you for all your support and for tuning in over the couple years that this podcast has been alive. I know I mentioned in my last episode that my relationship to this podcast is shifting a little bit, because when I created it, it was very much coming from a space of trying to find my voice again, trying to find my identity again after leaving the corporate world and being in an unhealthy relationship and all those different things I was experiencing and shedding and letting go of so I could be more in tune with myself. But I'm so grateful to keep this podcast going, and gosh, what a great tool for reflection. I mean, sometimes I'll go back in my journals and read what I was experiencing and seeing how far I've come, or seeing that I have manifested what I was hoping for at that time. And this podcast is no different. I remember starting this podcast with like no real clear direction on what I wanted to talk about. And I think that that's what I need from this. Of course, I love to interview my guest, and my last guest, Mark, was fantastic. Such a great way to wrap up the year. And also, I enjoy these one-on-one intimate yapping sessions where I get to share with you about my own authentic journey, because the feedback I've received from my audience has been that these kinds of episodes are just as potent and just as raw and real. And I'm so grateful to be embraced in that and held in that and share my journey with you, because there's been so much change, y'all, so much change, but just beautiful change. Gosh, just from my career taking a whole new trajectory. Maybe not a whole new trajectory, but like a dream trajectory in some ways. Like these things, and one of the topics I'm going to discuss today is about deservability and really embodying that deservability. And I have realized that that has been such a key step in my manifestation journey, is not just wanting certain things for myself, but how I call them in. We have a special guest, my little kitters. For those of y'all who are watching the video version, and for those of y'all who are just auditory listening, that's her little collar, her little bell. This is Madam. Anyways, so one of the key things with manifestation I've really realized is not just wanting certain things, but you call it in and attract it so much faster, just lightning fast sometimes even, it seems, when you believe that you deserve it and you embody that, and that deservability resonates with you. Because I've noticed with myself that there were certain things, because of trauma or because of just beliefs or because it had been the way for so long, like that some of the things that I wanted were just not for me or for other people, or maybe we're 5 years down the road, or once I accomplish this, then I can have that. And like once I fully work on myself and I'm healed, then I'll attract my dream partner. Or once I do this, then this will happen in my career. And it's just not the case. I've learned that there's so much beauty in embracing the surrender to time frames, to expectations of what certain things might look like or feel like, and the universe always delivers exactly what it is that we need, exactly what it is that we truly want in our heart of hearts. And I'm just so thankful for that. And one of the benefits that this podcast brings me is a chance to process. It really is like, this is like a therapy session with myself in some ways. So thank you for holding this space for me. And I just hope you take from it, like, that you're not alone in your own journey when it comes down to figuring out your life and figuring out who you are and where you want to go. Because to be completely honest, like, I'm at this place right now where I really don't know where things are going. And I'm kind of loving it. Like, I'm very much like moving out of this construct of like I have to have like specific goals and timelines. Like, yes, I do have like some of those things, like my latest poetry book that I'm working on. I do want to release that this year, but I'm also giving myself the liberty to not operate under such a strict construct to where I neglect like my process and what that process feels like for me and how I want to be so connected to myself as I proceed through this unfolding of goals as well. And I might have an idea of like, oh, this is going to happen this day or this time. And sometimes it just doesn't. And it doesn't mean that that's a failure necessarily. It looks different. And that's kind of what I mean by like scaling back or double checking or even just like questioning your expectations of what something looks like. Because I think so often we create limitations for ourselves and block some of our blessings because we expect or truly attach ourselves to certain ideals or imagery or whatever the case may be. So it's just about finding that balance of like, this is what I want, but it's how it feels is what makes it real. And oh gosh, it's just wild. And so with the processing, gosh, I feel like there's so much good that's been happening in my life and I'm receiving so much good. And that's almost been kind of weird, like weird in like the best way, because I think, especially as someone who's experienced trauma or just has maybe like an anxiety prone brain sometimes, like myself, sometimes like when all this good is happening and happening so fast and like these manifestations are coming to fruition, that terror barrier or like that, oh my gosh, this is really happening, starts to show up. And I've noticed with myself, even some like self-sabotage coming in because things are going so well. It's almost like what's the catch? Or like like waiting for the other shoe to drop kind of thing. Or this is too good to be true. Or like almost looking for things that are wrong with someone or something that I'm experiencing, just so that way I have a sense of control. And learning how to shed that and work through a lot of intrusive thoughts like that are echoes of hypervigilance due to trauma again. Noticing those showing up and learning how to hold myself through that and be gentle and loving through that rather than just like, oh crap, here's like another thing I have to work through or like another thing that's wrong with me. Like moving away from that and just starting to notice and get curious about, oh, I'm having a pattern of like these thoughts that are around jealousy or that are around insecurity or that are around comparison or whatever the case may be. And just starting to notice that and not judging myself for it or trying to change it right away, but just starting to notice it and noticing it, or just taking that observation deeper into like, what do I need from this? Why is this showing up as a protective part? Because that's really sometimes what self-sabotage is, or like these like hypervigilance is trying to protect us. So therefore, what is the fear that is really under the surface that is causing these protective parts to swoop in? Like, for example, I've been noticing with myself, because things are going so well, particularly like in my new relationship, that I've been having like fear of loss show up. And that has been manifesting as jealousy, or it's been manifesting as insecurity, or it's been manifesting as like derealization in some ways. Like things are going so well. Like kind of disassociating or having a hard time staying present because of like intrusive thoughts or just echoes of the past and the trauma I experienced, which is documented in some of my other podcast episodes, like noticing echoes of those kinds of thoughts showing up because they were my reality for so long, and just really having to practice grounded self-love, because I think you can practice groundedness that can be critical, but intentionally practicing grounded self-love to where like, hey, I'm not broken for thinking these things. I'm not like bad for thinking these things, and also checking myself and being like, hey, this is someone totally different. This is someone who's a completely different person, completely different situation. And I am also different from that situation too. I'm not allowing certain things to happen in my life anymore. I'm not allowing people to treat me certain ways anymore, and taking that accountability piece. And all of that is wrapped up in that, I would say, anchor of self-love, of like, I trust myself to choose safe people. I trust myself to practice discipline, to not project onto someone who I think they are or how they should act in those expectations or whatever the case may be, and allowing them to show up organically as themselves and allowing myself to receive that. And I think that that's just been such a huge lesson for me, and embracing this new, amazing, wonderful love in my life and person in my life who is such a huge manifestation of just blatant and also subtle things that I've wanted and craved and longed for in a partner and desired in a partner. And again, I go back to that deservability element, because I think in some ways for some time, like my ideal partner, it felt like they wouldn't want me, or like that was for someone else, or because of what I was experiencing, that it was just a fantasy who I was wanting, or like what the kind of partner I desired. But I think tuning into my desires more, tuning into my body, my sense of self, the relationship with self, and allowing myself to be present and satisfied and held in that satisfaction that I cultivate for myself, has also therefore translated in this ability to receive true love. I mean, really, in a lot of ways. And it's just so interesting to me how like these whispers of our souls, like they don't go unnoticed, they don't go unheard. And I think it's just about allowing and not being scared to receive that, because that's what I was referencing with like the self-sabotage. Like I was having a chat with my partner about like how this, like, it's been so good that I am almost like this fear of losing it, of losing him, of losing this relationship, of this love, has been making like certain things show up in me. And so if you're experiencing something like this, I highly recommend you tuning into yourself and starting to get curious about like what perhaps is blocking you from receiving what it is that you want. Is it a deservability thing? Is it some kind of belief that you can bust open and get curious about and analyze and unlearn? Because I can tell, like, just whether it's from like childhood or past experiences or relationships, or even like stuff I learned in my career or stuff I learned like from college. Like it doesn't always have to be like one single thing. But this element of deservability and how like real true love isn't something that is transactional, or that is needs to come at the cost of myself. And I think too, like really focusing on like my codependent recovery, which I've been really open about in my podcast as well, has been so huge, because I think I've really learned and been able to practice like that discipline as a means of self-love. Like discipline is self-love, creating that safe container for yourself to exist and set boundaries so you can have your authentic self shine through, because you are protecting yourself and able to practice that discernment and actually like listen to your intuition and act on it. And when I say you, I mean me. With that being said, like being able to move into this space of abundance of self-love, abundance of trust in myself, and practicing that discernment of, do I really love this person, or do I love how they make me feel about myself? Like, do I love how they are, or do I love like how we are when we're together, or those kind of things? Because I think that was a pattern of mine I've had to break in the past, because I was super, because maybe I had self-worth issues or was disconnected from my deservability when I would be in these relationships with people who were like manipulative or love bomby or whatever the case may be. Like, I know that's definitely present in my last relationship, like the love bombing, where it felt so good to feel wanted. It felt so good to be desired. It felt so good to like feel seen. But it felt good because I, yet at that moment in time, didn't really believe it. It hadn't really sunk in for myself. So here, when I'm being flooded with these compliments, or flooded with like someone who's like all in, like, yes, let's do this. And then for that to not be honest and true and sustainable, when that flipped, and then like my emotions were used against me, and I wasn't taking accountability for my emotions either, that's when things became so unhealthy and stuck in this cycle, because I was like just trying to get back to that high, just trying to get back to like what I thought things could be and sustained as such. And that just made me so vulnerable to my emotions. Whereas now I'm so grateful for that experience, this year of just kind of flying solo and focusing on like my female friendships, family relationships, etc. It's been so powerful because it's allowed me to really get in tune with myself and build trust with myself and care for myself. So I'm not like waiting for my knight in shining armor to come save me. I don't need anyone to save me. I don't need someone to have that power imbalance with me. I want someone who's on my level, equal partner that I respect, who respects me, that we can build together. And that's been such a huge contrast for me in past relationships, where I feel like didn't feel whole or complete or happy with life because I didn't have a person, or really like a distraction, or was just confusing sex with love and thinking, oh, well, this is happening, so therefore I love him, or vice versa. And then like on the contrast, like with like my past relationship, how there was such a lack of physical intimacy and safety and emotional safety and those kinds of things, and how that took such a huge toll on my sense of self and deservability. And that's been something I'm still unlearning, truly. Like in my new relationship, is like, here I have this incredible man who I'm super attracted to, who's super attracted to me and desires me and is expressive with that, and like matches my hunger, so to speak. And just having that be such an incredible liberating experience, as well as like just getting in touch with the part of myself that I shut down for so long because it wasn't safe to express, because of all the rejection or all of the emotional manipulation, or just I'm sorry to laugh. I don't know how else to put this. Um, just someone who wasn't good. And, I'm sure great for someone else, like, good for them. But who just was not on my skill level, and not as open and expressive and comfortable in themselves. And that therefore was also like making me shut down too, because I felt like I couldn't experiment, or I couldn't try new things. Or I think the role of substances was also really key to the beginning sexual intimacy piece. But as soon as alcohol was taken off the table, the sexual dynamic changed drastically. And I was like, well, damn, like, was he only good at that moment in time because he wasn't sober? Like, who actually is this person? Who am I really connecting with? And it just was not healthy by any means. So being with someone now who's extremely present and extremely there for me and my feelings and my body, and is very loving and generous, and again, able to match my energy in a lot of ways. Like, it's been just could not be more of a contrast. And it's beyond just like compatibility, but it's been such a huge journey for myself, and knowing that that's how it should be, right? That's like what I deserve. I don't have to work to be like some kind of porn star for whoever I'm with. I can just show up as myself and receive that. And not that there's anything wrong with porn stars, believe me, that's, great. And also like how just being with someone that you're safe with is really just so key to the freaky shit, It's so key to the emotional intimacy and that like merging of souls. And you just can't replicate or replace that. And it's something that's so sacred. It's more than just like a physical act or like just a way to be satisfied carnally. It's a full spectrum of connecting with someone and sharing something with someone that like you love. And I just have found that to be so special, and like I say liberating, because I feel like I'd shut down for so long, like that part of myself, that part of my brain, like that part of my body. And so just this year of like getting back in touch with my body and my nervous system feeling safe to feel desire, to feel sexual arousal, like to feel safe in my femininity, to feel safe in feeling that stuff again. It's been so hard. And just because of like just the constant reinforcement of like, you're doing something wrong, that's bad, like he doesn't want you, he wants someone else, like that kind of just like brainwashing. And so I'm just really proud of myself, and anyone who's listening to this who's experienced something similar, just know that like you can have the best partner in the world, you can have the hottest partner in the world, you can have someone who knows what they're doing, but it's really truly an inside job when it comes down to like your ability to receive that pleasure and allow yourself to receive it. And I think that's something that like I can really see evidence of my self-love journey, evidence of my ability to remain curious and ask the hard questions, and also be gentle on myself, to also just know that time by myself with my body is sacred as well. And it allows me to feel things in a safe way, and then therefore choose who I share that with, where I don't have to only feel certain things because I'm with someone, or I only have access to certain pleasure because I'm with someone. Like, fully liberated, fully empowered to know my body, know myself, know what I want, know what I like, advocate for that, advocate for my needs, and then choose to share that with someone. Of course, it can be challenging. Like, the vulnerability piece is definitely there. Like, and I'm still learning how to feel comfortable and safe being vulnerable with someone, not because of anything he's doing wrong, but because he's wonderful. But it's with myself, and like the meaning I've had to make about certain things. Like, oh, if I am vulnerable in this way, like if I open myself up in this way, like emotionally, like what does that mean? Am I going to get hurt? Is it going to be used against me? Like, that's what I mean by like having to unlearn all these different kinds of things. But ultimately it's, I think, just setting aside that time to ground and take care of your nervous system and show yourself. Again, don't wait for someone to show you, because that's giving them that power. They can reinforce it and show you, but I think you have to show yourself first and know that you deserve to feel that pleasure, and that it's a good thing, it's a natural thing, it's something that's healthy, truly healthy. Because I know like my arousal and my comfort with my body and my confidence is higher when I'm relaxed, like when I'm balanced and nourished and taken care of. And that starts with me, that discipline to show up for myself. And so that's been a huge journey for me lately. And it's been unfolding on my own in various ways. Like getting back into modeling has been essential with that, just feeling comfortable being seen and comfortable expressing parts of myself that I felt like I had to lock away for some time. And now that like I'm more public with that, like whether it's with my magazine or like with my work with Playboy or whatever the case may be, it's so curious to me now, like how much I feel like I've broken out of the matrix, so to speak, when it comes down to those themes, specifically as a woman. Because I feel like, and men and people just across the spectrum, not even just operating in the binary, but like people across the spectrum, I think really experience this pressure to be either or. And I know I've talked about this a little bit on previous podcasts, and I go into this in volume 2 of my magazine as well, but just this embracing of the spectrum of who we are. And I think as women, like we are put under scrutiny for breaking out of that box where it's like, because I feel like women are just so multidimensional, and not to say men aren't, but just focusing on women, like we're so multidimensional, like we are cyclical creatures, like we don't operate under like a consistent hormonal schedule. Like we go through all these changes. We go through our own inner seasons. We have our follicular stage, our spring. We have our ovulation, our summer. We have our luteal, our fall, like menstrual, winter. Like we change with the seasons. We are the seasons contained in our body. And I think just tuning into that wisdom is essential. And also like how we express ourselves is a full spectrum of seasons too. Like we're not just the wholesome family oriented. Of course, if that's what you're more comfortable showing on the internet or whatever, presenting, like go for it. But I don't feel like people should be limited to like branding themselves in a consistent way, like a product, just to make it more easily digestible for others. That's something I just feel so passionately about, is like I refuse to spoon feed myself to people. I just can't do it anymore. Like that's just not who I am. And I've learned like if people have a hard time digesting me, it's not because I'm doing anything wrong. It's not like I'm trying to be bitchy or intense, but if that's how I'm perceived or if that's how I come across, like I think it says more about other people's limitation and capacity and belief system. And that's something I've really had to work hard to let go of, because I feel like for so long I was trying to chameleon myself into being accepted. And whereas, yes, I am all those different colors, also like feeling like I was wrong for showing up a certain way with a certain person, a group of people, or online or whatever it was soul sucking and it just was not authentic. And I feel like that's been one of the keys to like quantum leaping and manifesting my dream life so fast, is by just like not giving a fuck and just being like truly just really tuning into like, who am I? I'm not apologizing for that anymore. If you don't like it, that's fine. I really don't care. That's not going to change anything in my world. Can it create some loss? Sure. I'm not minimizing certain people maybe do need more boundaries with me because of the fact, and that's okay. That's a them thing too. And also, I'm inviting in and attracting so many more of the people who are truly meant to be in my life, who aren't disturbed or intimidated by my power and my full spectrum of personality, which I'm so comfortable now showing to everyone. And those are the true people who like, they're not intimidated. They don't try to make me small. They're not at war with themselves. So therefore, when I'm living authentically, they're threatened by that. You know, it's like so much more moving into a space of collaboration and creative respect and inspiration. And that's something I'm so grateful for. And it's just, I say effortless as far as like, I mean, as true as the word can mean, it's effortless as far as like, I'm not trying to make anyone like me. My survival and my happiness doesn't depend on that anymore. It did for some time, but now I feel like I'm at this place in life where I thrive in my authenticity, and like the people who are really truly meant to be in my life and who truly love me embrace that. And maybe if it does cause some friction points here and there, it's growth for both of us. I know that's definitely like been the case when some of my friendships, like as I'm going through all these changes, sometimes that can make other people think about themselves and their lives. And that's just, I think, how we as connected beings operate, is like we are mirrors for each other. And I think if someone has like the tendency to like see someone living a certain kind of way and want to control them to make themselves feel more comfortable, that's a type of codependency. And that was certainly how I operated in both fashions, like whether I was trying to control someone's behavior so I would feel safe, or therefore like them controlling me so they would feel more safe. It really does kind of boil down to that, I would say, security, safety, and that is such an inside job. It really is. So like for example, with my current partner, like if I'm feeling jealous about something, again, I know it's nothing that he's doing, but it's me needing to come home to myself in that moment and remind myself and ground myself that I am safe, that I choose trustworthy people in my life, and I can take care of my feelings. I don't need him to reassure. I mean, he already does naturally, but like I don't need him to reassure me. I don't need him to, bleed for me so I can live. And that's something that keeps me in my power and also keeps the attraction in so many ways, because like it's doing things from love and not for love. Like I'm doing things and showing up from a place of love, not because I'm expecting something from him, or requiring something of him. And it allows him to show up organically as well. So it's been such a huge journey in that deservability, that self management and discipline, and also just really staying focused on my codependent recovery, because like of course in the honeymoon stage you're so consumed and just like want to spend every second with that person, and like, oh, I just can't get enough. And also like I can't just abandon my life. I love my life so much, like but even before he entered the picture, like I loved how my life was and how it was going. And I can tell like I just get to show up so much healthier in this relationship because I'm not abandoning myself. I'm sticking to my schedule, and I'm sticking to my self-care, and I'm sticking to the nights with my girlfriends and the nights for myself and time with my family. And we're balancing that, making it all work. And it just feels so great to experience such a full spectrum of love as well. And like, yes, the romantic love is something that is super fulfilling, and also like my familial love, like my love with my pets, like my love with my best friends, like it scratches such a different itch, and it can all exist at the same time too. And that's really what true love is allowing people to exist in that way. And I'm so grateful that he never questions when I need time to myself or when I need to have time with my girlfriends. Like it's very much, he doesn't take it personally. It's very like celebrated and supported, and that's how it should be, right? And also like I'm grateful like for his security in himself and like his own evolution with his spectrum, because he allows me to show up as all these different versions of myself. Whereas in the past, especially with modeling, I feel like it has made dating so challenging, because I feel like there's so many projections that come from that, which is, part of, I think, that work in some ways. Like I am playing sometimes this fantasy or tapping into this side of myself. And if that's all people want to consume, that's fine. I have no control over that. Like with my magazine, for example, if they just buy it for the pictures, like, cool. You bought it. That's what, and if they don't, or if they like neglect the articles, like that, it's disappointing, because I would love for them to read it and, become more enlightened and, emotionally intelligent. But if they choose not to do that, I have no control. And that's them choosing to continue to stay in a paradigm, and that's not my problem. So all that being said, though, at the same time, like, going back to my initial point of like being in a partnership is letting that person show up however they are. That's something I'm grateful for. Like, where in the past I feel like people have loved the idea of me modeling, and they've loved the idea of like whatever that idea is, of me doing more, like, whether it's like erotic work or just sensual work or whatever the case may be, like at surface level enjoying that, and not fully accepting the behind the scenes aspect, or that's like the tip of the iceberg is like, oh, I have a pretty girlfriend, and then what's really below the surface is random people DM me, people comment stuff on my post, I interact with fans, like, the attention in public sometimes, like whatever it is, like it can bring a whole bunch of stuff under the surface. And if you're not with someone who's really secure in themselves and also like trust you, it can be really challenging. And I think it's also, like, again, evident of other people's limitations if they're not able to hold space for all of that. Because I think, like, in the past, it was very much like, well, if you're, naked on the internet, like, then that's bad, and that takes something away from me and my experience with you. And it's like, no, it can all exist at the same time. It's this full spectrum. It's the gray space. It's the abundance mindset. Like, yes, maybe I perform, or maybe I model, or maybe I do something and I have like certain energies with it, but there's also something really sacred about the intimate relationship space, and how like I can bring that energy into that space, but I don't bring the intimate, emotional, meaningful energy into the public space. It's not everything is so interchangeable. So all that to be said, of course people have boundaries, of course people have preferences, and that's fine, but I think like your true person, like your true soulmate, the person you're truly meant to be with, allows you to be yourself, and you don't have to change anything or make yourself small or stop certain things. I think it's important to be honest, and I think it's important to check in and receive feedback, but also it's like, I don't plan on changing anything in my life right now because I really enjoy what I do. And it's just such a part of who I am. And yes, maybe things might look different down the road if I choose for them to look different, or if just things go differently. But I don't want to stop my lifestyle. I don't want to stop what I do to earn a living, or what I enjoy and what's fun for me, just because of managing someone else's emotions. Can't cope for people, or you making yourself small to make someone else feel better is so dangerous. Like, that's so fucking dangerous. So, yeah, don't do that, because you're gonna lose yourself, and they're not truly loving you for who you are if that's the case. If you have to make yourself less, oh no, get out, run away. Oh my gosh. So all that to say, it's like, if you're looking at my Instagram, I was just on a podcast this morning as a guest, and the interviewer was like, okay, looking at your Instagram, like I don't think he described this on the podcast. I think it was our after chat, but he said I was a contradictory woman. And I find that to be so funny, because I'm like, that's someone's impression, is like this or that. Again, the or of like, she's wholesome with her family, with her friends, with children, or she's like making this like sensual content, or like this fantasy, and like wearing a little Santa lingerie by the fire, or whatever the case. And it's like, why can't that exist all at the same time? When did that even start? Like, when did that even start? Like, what cultural, societal thing started to put people in this box to make themselves feel better? I just, Can't do it, won't do it. Doesn't make any sense to me. And because ultimately I think it's dehumanizing. Because I mean, yes, I think women face this heavily, but I think men too. And again, everyone in between, whatever, like however you identify, I think faces this pressure to, gosh, it makes me think of like the Instagram versus LinkedIn kind of phenomenon where it's like LinkedIn has to be buttoned up and like all professional and whatever. And that makes sense because that's the purpose of that website. But then how like people will look so different on their Instagram and be like at raves or at concerts or drinking or whatever, being, again, the full spectrum of who they are. And I just feel strongly that you can do it all and one does not take away from the other. If you are doing it from a place of honesty and from a place of authenticity, accept all, reject none, right? I think that that is such a key to enlightenment and not living in a hell realm for yourself, is if you're rejecting parts of yourself because they're unacceptable or you perceive them to be taboo or unacceptable. Those things don't just go away. Sometimes they manifest in like subconscious, sneaky ways. Like if you don't integrate your shadow, it's going to show up in some kind of way. So I think looking at those parts of yourself, accepting them, making peace with them, and building a healthy relationship with them allows you to embody and integrate and show up as a more loving version, as a more compassionate version of yourself, and you radiate that to other people. When I know for myself, at least, like because I've done so much work integrating my shadow, I think that's what makes me such a compelling, powerful space holder, is that nothing surprises me, nothing shocks me, nothing disgusts me. People can tell me the most, I wouldn't even say outlandish, but they might think like, oh, this is so crazy, this is so outlandish, like this is great. And they'll tell me something, I'm like, okay, like not to minimize your experience or invalidate you, but like what you're saying is a human thing to experience. It's the society that's telling you, or whatever beliefs that's telling you is unacceptable. And you can step away from that. You can just look at this thing for what it is and be curious about it and hold yourself in compassion as you look at a behavior or a thought or a pattern or whatever it is. And I think as soon as you step away from that low vibration, judgment, guilt, shame, whatever the case may be, fear, and you move into that place of curiosity, you are just naturally elevating it and bringing it into the light and giving it the space to adapt and change. So that's how I feel about that. So don't put baby in the corner. Don't put baby in the box. Just let me be who I am. And of course, that might ruffle some feathers. Of course, that might make people uncomfortable from time to time. But that's a them thing. And I'm not taking that on anymore. And I've even been asked this by folks before, like, how does your family like deal with what you do and whatever, like in reference more to like my Playboy work or like my modeling and stuff. And of course, like I've had conversations with my family where they're like, hey, it's kind of weird seeing your butt on the internet. Like it kind of startles me. Like I'm not a fan. And I'm like, well, good. I'm kind of glad that you're not a fan, because that'd be freaking weird if you were. Like, so that'd be kind of weird if you were wanting to see that. And also I hold space for those emotions where I'm like, okay, well, like, what boundaries do you need? Do you need to unfollow me on Instagram? Do you need to not look at my stories? Like, it's okay, like, if you have limitations. And also, don't push those on me either. Do what you need to do to feel okay. Don't try to control me to feel okay. So that's my perspective on all that. So all that to say, if you're going through something similar or have been meditating on these themes, just know, like, you are the one to give yourself permission. It might sting a little bit. It might feel a little weird in the beginning. There could be a lot of fear that shows up, and that's all normal. That's all part of a paradigm shift. And also, you can still continue to show up for yourself. And I think compassion is truly key. Love is truly key behind moving through anything challenging. And that love is always available to you too. It's about cultivating it within yourself and moving into that space of curiosity and into that space of you don't have to be anything more to be accepted. Sometimes it's about shedding what's in the way for you to receive that love. And sometimes it's about just being present. That's something I'm noticing too, is like just being satisfied with the present moment, arriving and existing in the present moment, and allowing your body to feel that satisfaction connects you even greater, even more greatly connects you. That's proper grammar, right? Oh my gosh. To your authenticity, because if we don't take that time to tune in with ourselves, we become so vulnerable to external messaging and external influences of what we should be, quote, should be doing or pursuing, or what's acceptable, or how we should go about doing certain things. I know I feel this pressure sometimes with like marketing my business or marketing like my services. It's like, oh, I should have all one color and all one font and have all consistent messaging so people can like really know and identify. And I'm sure that is important for certain things, certain companies. But for me, I just don't care. Like, I post when I want to post. Sometimes I schedule out posts just so I don't forget about them. But I'm not trying to curate a facade. I'm not trying to curate an experience. Like, I'm just showing up as myself. And if you vibe with that and want to connect with me on that, great. Happy to help you learn more about yourself. Happy to share myself. Happy to ask those questions that get you thinking and get you started on the right track. Like, that's something I cherish in my client work, is helping people just come home to themselves and release and shed stuff that just isn't serving them. And also, like, just tuning in with themselves and tuning into their desires, like the desires of their heart, like the things that make them excited, and finding that stillness and that safety and that quietness within yourself, and not being full of distraction, which is so relevant in this day and age. But taking that time for themselves to really tune into what they feel like. What is your vibration? Like, who are you? How do you feel in your body? And when you show up as you, how does that feel? And I love guiding people through that. And not that I have all the answers. I can't possibly have all the answers to them, because that's them. But I love helping them ask the questions that help them realize it for themselves, or claim it, or own it, whatever the case may be. And so I think that can be really special work as well. But all that to say, authenticity is such a huge key to manifesting the life that you truly want. And deservability is another huge key to manifesting the life that you truly want. You got to be in that vibration of what it is that you want. Like, make it happen by starting what you can now, and by embodying that energy, not what you perceive the energy to be or what you maybe expect the energy to be. But I think, like, for example, if you are trying to be super wealthy, I feel like that's a super common example. It's like, super wealthy people, yes, usually are more relaxed about their spending, but they're not spending willy-nilly. Otherwise, they won't be wealthy anymore. Like, still living with that discipline and with that consistency piece, but also not stressing about spending money when it's necessary to like invest in themselves or invest in what it is that they're looking to cultivate. So I know that was kind of vague, but or like, for example, I would say my key word for 2024 was peace. That's what I really wanted to feel, was just peace. And so operating with that embodiment of peace, allowing that to become a familiar experience, and then allowing that sense of peace to fuel my decision making, my discernment. Like, is this something that makes me feel peaceful and preserves my peace? Or is this something that is taking me away from that sense of peace and maybe moving back into that old pattern of obligation or that old pattern of survival or whatever the case may be. But when I'm operating and allowing myself to exist in that space of peace, I have so much more clarity on my next steps. I have so much more clarity on who fits in my life, what opportunities to say yes to. And so that's kind of what I mean by like, even if your goal is going to take a little bit of time, you can cultivate and move closer to what it is that you want by allowing yourself to feel and operate from that space emotionally of what it is that you want, whether it's peace or confidence or love or I would say like inner safety, I think could also translate to peace. But all that to say, like knowing and allowing that to become the normal. So when things are coming your way super fast, you can kind of take that step back of like, oh, I'm not feeling what I want to feel anymore. What's up with that? Like what's getting in the way of that? Not like what's wrong with me or what's wrong with this person or what are they doing or whatever the case may be. It's like, oh, how can I take care of myself so I can get back to the state of being that I want to reside in? Because I think it's more than just like feeling something in the flash of a moment, but cultivating your life to where that can be, again, like I say, like a space, a state of residence. Like that is you becoming your new default setting. So it's fun. It's cute. I like it. And I hope that this has been insightful for you. Thank you for listening to me. Just so many changes happening with my relationship life, my career, just getting back into writing poetry because I feel like that I was super disconnected from that for a while. Like I was just only writing when I was angry or sad. But now it's just been so fun to write just about things that I love or things that are special to me, and also releasing some anger and sadness here and there. But overall, allowing that full spectrum to be expressed creatively as well has been so cathartic. So stay tuned for my next book. I don't have a date yet. I don't want to set a date on it. I'm just letting it flow how it needs to flow. So just stay tuned. It'll be out eventually. Yeah, so career and even just like reflecting on again like how different my life was a year ago and how I just renewed my lease for this house, and it's just so special to me how like gosh, it hasn't even been a year since I've lived in this house, and like so much changed for me when I moved to this new space, like whole new vibration, whole upgrade in my environment, and just how time is so relative and how like gosh, not even a year has passed since I moved in to this house. Like imagine what my life is going to look like in another year when more adventures excuse me, come my way. Honestly, I'm surprised I made it this long without yawning. But anyways, so so I think that that's everything I wanted to yap about today. I appreciate you listening to me. I hope that you've been able to find comfort and identify yourself in my own narrative just about change and how the process can be challenging and tricky, but that there's so much good waiting for you in the process and on the other side of it. I think that that's something that is huge. It's not like healing's not a destination. It's not like oh, I'm healed now. Like stuff is all over the place, and that's okay, and that's normal. And it's how you continue to show up for yourself when things pop up that allows it to become easier, to allow those hard things to become less and less and less, and how you really make that shift into the new paradigm. And that's so special. And you deserve that. And it's available to you, and you have access to it, and you can call it in. And I think the more you tap into love and shed the things that get in the way of self-love and see just how available things are for you, it's going to be a really fun, magical journey. It might feel a little overwhelming. I know for me, like I've had to take some time just to be like, whoa, there's so much good stuff going on. How can I gotta process this. So find those avenues and reach out to me if I can help you. I always love to chat, and I always love to hear what you're doing and how you're feeling, and what you're processing, and I love to be on this journey with you, processing together. So thank you so much for holding this space, for listening, for giving me your attention, for allowing my words to move things within you and maybe trigger new ideas, or maybe trigger something that's uncomfortable that's worth exploring. Whatever you get from this, I appreciate it all. And I can't wait to connect with you again soon. Thank you so much. This is Eclipse Evolution. I'm Savannah Rose, and bye for now.